and another edition of the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Chiefs get it done in Charlotte, 30-27. This is a game that, even though I just said we always knew it was going to be close, didn't we? I mean, you see a noon kickoff in Charlotte, Carolina. They're 3-7. They had won back-to-back games. The Chiefs coming off their loss to Buffalo. It was going to be close, and we couldn't really explain why. But the Chiefs in the first half, early on, or I would probably say midway through the third quarter, they were starting to pull away from Carolina. But for whatever reason, this defense, for the third consecutive game, just struggling to get off the field. Just giving up chunk plays in the passing game, maybe not being as elite in shutting down the run. And Carolina is an offense that you should not be struggling with. Look, if you've listened to us long enough before this year, and the Chiefs are 10-1, I don't need to say that 10-1 is a fraudulent 10-1, or it's just a record that at the end of the day isn't going to be enough to get them far in the postseason. I don't believe in any sort of that talk. You know, the Chiefs are a good football team. Let's get that out of the way. But I think with what I've said in the last couple of weeks, in some of these close wins, some of these nail-biters, well, it's building that chemistry, even with some of the new guys, that you know how to win late. But today, I'm having a hard time walking away from it feeling better than I did 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. A win is a win in the NFL. You don't apologize for victories. You've heard me say that a lot here on the Red and Gold Postgame Show. But 27 points to the Carolina Panthers is just not acceptable at this point in the season. For whatever reason, Steve Spagnuolo's defense is regressing a little bit. Maybe it's the injuries that are finally starting to catch up with them. We've seen that with the offense. At times, it's just going to show its ugly head, or rear its ugly head. And the Chiefs have had some significant injuries on that side of the ball. And I'm starting to wonder, as bad as that injury was to Rashee Rice, as bad as that injury was for Isaiah Pacheco, for Hollywood Brown in the preseason, how big is that injury to Jalen Watson? I mean, I would say there is a direct correlation to this defense's struggles, more specifically their struggles in the secondary, and when Jalen Watson went down in San Francisco. When that injury happened, I think we have just seen a different group out there. We have seen a group that on 3rd and long, on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, either they're not getting enough pressure on the quarterback, or the quarterback's able to sit there comfortably and fire in a strike to a receiver. Bryce Young today looked a lot like Zach Wilson did last year when the Chiefs played the Jets at MetLife. Remember that game? It was Sunday Night Football. It felt like this is a team that is going to be able to just run over, steamroll a Jets team that had lost Aaron Rodgers, not too long before that. But Zach Wilson looked polished. Zach Wilson had a clean pocket, and he was able to pick apart that Chiefs defense. Bryce Young today felt very similar. Very few times did he look like the Bryce Young in his rookie season. Or, more importantly, the Bryce Young that got benched for Andy Dalton. Today, this is one of those games where I can't find too many positives from the defense. I mean, some of the missed tackling, the bad penalties, Bryce Young finding open receivers on 3rd and long. And I know that we're going to be getting to some of your thoughts here in the second segment. Also, we'll be hearing from Andy Reid later on. We'll be hearing from Patrick Mahomes. But I just can't walk away from this game. As thrilling as it was a fun football game, I think, for the rest of the NFL fan bases. Rooting against the Kansas City Chiefs, rooting for Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers, and you get a 27-27 game with less than 2 minutes to go. I think for watchability, it was a fun game. But if you're a Chiefs fan, you're probably disgusted with that game because that shouldn't come down to a game-winning field goal by Spencer Schrader. This game should have been put away early on in the third quarter. I mean, you take a double-digit lead into halftime. The defense hadn't been good, but it was sort of that bend, don't break defense. And then in the third quarter, it was Carolina methodically moving the football. Very similar to the way the Chiefs put away a lot of teams. Just methodically moving the football up and down, using 12, 13, 14 plays, not really anything explosive. And then you punch it in for 6. That's what this Chiefs offense has been able to do a lot. But this Chiefs defense, I mean, you go back to the first 5, 6, 7 games of the season. They were a big reason why they were able to close out a lot of those games. They were able to get off the field. They were able to have a big stop. And right now, even though they bounce back from the loss against Buffalo, you're 10-1. It's a short week. You got the Raiders coming to Arrowhead on Black Friday. This defense has some issues right now. And it felt like, even though I opened up this show saying, the spread was 11.5, but if you were a Chiefs fan that had watched all season long and you've watched this team in the last 2 years, they were going to play with their food. But when we've seen the Chiefs play with their food, sometimes to me it's the offense struggling, getting too conservative, the play calling. But today, the offense was the one that looked polished for the most part. Still not good protection from the tackles and Jawan Taylor and Wanye Morris. But what else is new, right? This is something we talked about last week after the Buffalo game. I said I didn't feel any differently about this Chiefs team, despite them having a 1 in the loss column. Because the same issues they've been dealing with for the first 9 weeks of the season are still going on. But they were 9-1. Today, I mean, the offense was able to click early on. They scored less than 3 minutes into the game. There was busted coverage in the secondary for Carolina. Noah Gray, who once again had a 2-touchdown game, good for him. He gets wide open. Patrick Mahomes just floats one to him, and you think at that point, hey, this is that game where even though we've got that feeling in our gut that they're still going to play with their food, they're going to play down to their opponent, this should be an easy game for the offense. This can be your confidence game. This can be your blowout that you needed with a short week that was coming up. And yet it was the defense that was struggling. The defense couldn't get off the field on third down. The defense couldn't really get to Bryce Young. The defense couldn't force that key turnover. And I'm not really going to say the Broncos game was a bad game defensively, but I think the Tampa Bay game was a bad one. I certainly think the Buffalo game was a bad game defensively. And Carolina was a bad game defensively. Now, 10-1 is 10-1. You are the 1 seed in the AFC. And you've got another gimme game on Friday. It's also a division rivalry, and you're also coming off a game in which you needed a clock-expiring field goal to beat a 3-7 Carolina team. A Panthers team that was dead and gone weeks ago. They did find a little bit of a spark in winning back-to-back games. They're still not a good football team. I mean, you had heard us on Arrowhead Pride Radio. Pete Sweeney and I were talking about this Panthers team and how many categories they were bottom in the league. So even if you're playing inspired football, you can't hide from the numbers. The numbers are going to tell you that this is a bad football team, and the spread is going to tell you this is an outmatched football team, and you should be able to take care of business. The Chiefs, even though they won today, didn't really take care of business. Now, I would have thought even if the offense had its struggles, there might have been a turnover or two, this Carolina offense was not going to be able to put up points on the defense. It felt like the perfect opportunity for this defense just to have that confidence boost, that pick-me-up. This was the game, to me, that Najee Johnson and Shamari Connor could have erased what happened at Orchard Park against the Bills. That's what I thought today could have been. And I'm still not going to feel disgusted by a victory. As I said before, as I'll always say, you don't apologize for wins in the NFL. But there are just some games I think you need to show why you're a 9-1 football team. Why your loss last week isn't the doomsday loss that everybody was saying. Oh, that's the actual Chiefs, right? You know, even though Buffalo was 8-2 and it's in their own house and they had beaten you the last couple of years in the regular season, that was, one of those games I feel like everybody would say, though the Chiefs showed some of their weak parts, it was also not a bad loss at all. And if you would have gone out today, a full week of rest, and taken care of business and not had to sweat it out with the Panthers, I think you're kicking your feet up the rest of Sunday afternoon. But I think I would be lying in saying that today was as satisfying as some of those other close victories. Right, the blocked kick against Denver. That was satisfying because it was a thrilling end. Now, today you would think, well, isn't a game-winning field goal a thrilling end to a football game? Well, I don't think that game ever should have been in that spot. And by the way, Denver is a playoff team, in my opinion. Carolina is not. Carolina is rebuilding. They are trying to get reps for their younger players. This is one of the worst teams on your schedule. And still credit to them. I think Dave Canales has the Panthers headed in the right direction. It's nice to see Bryce Young playing well. But, man, I mean, coming off the Buffalo game and the way that Josh Allen attacked the Chiefs secondary, I thought this was that secondary's opportunity to go, this isn't the quality of opponent that we are going to see in January, late January, but we're going to show why last week that was just, a little bit of a fluke. We are progressing every single week. Najee Johnson getting more comfortable. Shamari Connor getting more comfortable. And maybe now, when you look at this group, you just have to view them a little bit differently. I would like to say that this defense is just working out some issues. They are working on some things here and there. Maybe it's a bad matchup or they got a little bit unlucky. What I think is starting to creep into my mind is there are just some injuries to that unit that you're not going to get help with. I mean, Charles Omenihu is going to be back. Maybe it's going to be on Friday. Maybe you wait another week and you bring him back for the game against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Maybe you do the same thing with Isaiah Pacheco. But even with the offense, which today they put up 30 points, they looked pretty smooth with the exception of not being able to keep Patrick Mahomes that clean in the pocket. Mahomes had a great game. I can sit back and say there are reinforcements coming. You are going to get Pacheco back to help out the running back room. You just brought in another tackle to compete with maybe Wanye Morris on the left side. You might be getting Hollywood Brown back earlier than expected. You're not bringing Rashee Rice back, but those are some key members coming back to the offense in key spots. I look at the defense, and I say Charles Omenihu is coming back, and that should give some help to Mike Dana. That can give some help to Felix Enrique-Uzama. That can give some help to George Karlaftis, Chris Jones. Just getting an extra pass rusher out there can be huge. But my concerns right now are in the secondary. And I can just circle that last drive and say, this is why. Right? This is why it concerns me. Because I do not think it has progressed since the Jalen Watson injury in San Francisco. I have not seen the progression I would have liked to from Najee Johnson. I need to see more from Shamari Connor, and it's not to say they're playing awful football because I don't believe that. But at this point in the season, you're 11 games in. Now you're getting on the back half of the schedule. Hell, you are on the back half of the schedule. When you get to January and you see Josh Allen again, or you see Lamar Jackson again, there is going to be a game plan to attack those two guys in the secondary. And Carolina today pretty much did the same thing. I mean, Adam Thielen As much as I've loved seeing him play in the NFL for the last handful of years, whether it be in Minnesota or it be in Carolina, at his age, he should not be able to work Jamari Conner like that. And on the play that set up the touchdown to put Carolina within 2, I mean, you would think that the idea in that moment is if the ball's coming my way and you're looking at the eyes of Adam Thielen and his arms are raising, I got to at least give an effort to turn my head around. Because 9 out of 10 times, in fact, I'd say 10 out of 10 times, that's going to be called PI. And that's going to put the ball at the 1. Trent McDuffie's PI, it's kind of tough. That ball's lobbed up in the air. The receiver's working his way back to the ball. Kind of no man's land. I don't think I think if he doesn't interfere there, it's going to be caught anyway. And then Chris Jones getting basically carried into the end zone for the 2-point conversion. It was a bad feeling, a bad gut feeling with that defense. Because every single time they were out there, I was thinking in my mind, here's the drive they can do it. Here's the drive they can have that big sack or that big turnover and just put the game away. Put the game on ice, and we're already looking ahead to the Raiders on Friday. They weren't able to do it. It felt very similar to that Tampa Bay game, where that final drive, you're still feeling comfortable, you got a touchdown lead. Hey, they got to go the length of the field to make this thing interesting. Now, Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield, it's still a little different story than Carolina. I don't care that this game was played in Charlotte. This was a game that the Chiefs should have been able to dominate on the defensive side of the ball. They absolutely should have been able to dominate up front. They have more talent on that side of the ball. And Bryce Young, to me, is a quarterback that still has a lot of issues. He is a former 1-1 pick, so you know the talent's there. But I don't recall a time that Bryce Young looked like that in his NFL career. He looked poised, he looked calm, he looked comfortable. And that, to me, was alarming today. He was very comfortable sitting there in the pocket and making some throws. He made a lot of smart decisions, so you do have to tip your cap to that. But this Chiefs defense, it was the strength of this team. It absolutely was the strength of this team. And when the offense puts up 30 points like that, you would love to be able to say this defense held Carolina to 13. It was a blowout. You never had to worry about it. Maybe you could even get Carson Wentz some reps at the end of the game. But you had to sweat this one out. And to me, it took a huge effort from Carolina's offense to do so. But I know we had some callers last week talking about the Buffalo game. You know, that final drive the Bills had that set up the 4th down run for Josh Allen. It was that theme of they couldn't get off the field. And it reminded you of the Tampa Bay game. They couldn't get off the field. The Denver game, they were bailed out by the block kick. But the defense could not get off the field. Today, the same story. It's still a solid game for the offense, though I did mention that Patrick Mahomes was sacked 5 times by a team that's 31st in the league in pressure rate. Wanya Morris and Jawan Taylor, in my opinion, just didn't have good enough games. Maybe Humphreys can come in and give you better play at left tackle, but I got to wait to see it first. But offensively, I mean, that's really the only positive to me today. I know we're talking about one side of the ball and the other. I mean, it's a big positive to put up 30 points, even if it is against a bad defense. But Patrick Mahomes, a 73% completion percentage. He had 3 touchdowns, no picks, a quarterback rating of 120.2. Kareem Hunt averaged 4.3 yards on the ground. I will take that every single Sunday from Kareem. And Patrick Mahomes had that long 33-yard run to set up the game-winning field goal by Spencer Schrader. Once again, just doing everything himself in the biggest moments of the game. I'm sure we'll be hearing some audio on that a little bit later on in our show, the Red and Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Noah Gray, again, another huge bright spot. 2 touchdowns today, 4 catches, 66 yards. Travis Kelce, 6 for 62. Xavier Worthy, 4 for 46 in this game. And DeAndre Hopkins, another touchdown for the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe that is his 3rd as a member of the Chiefs. He went 5 for 35 in this game. And Spencer Schrader, do have to give him some flowers there. He was 3 for 3 on extra points and 3 of 3 on field goals, had a long of 41, and had the game winner from inside of 35 yards to put the Chiefs at 10-1. I know we're going to have a lot of thoughts on this game. I know you are going to have a lot of thoughts on this game. We always take our callers' thoughts in the second part of our show today. But before we do it, a quick break. I got word from Dylan that we have Patrick Mahomes down on the field with Evan Washburn, so let's hear that audio right now.
Well, Patrick, a wild fourth quarter, but let's start with what you saw on that 33-yard run that set up the game-winning field goal.
Yeah, I mean, you're at the end of the game. You're trying to get us in field goal range. I think I was Justin Watson, maybe. Someone made a great block on the sideline. I was able to get down the field and give ourselves a chance to kick a field goal. So I'm glad we got the win.
A lot of curiosity in how you guys would respond. I'm not sure a lot of people saw this, but what's the value in the experience and how you guys finish this game as you move forward?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be better finishing in the fourth quarter, offensively especially. I mean, I thought we played a great game offensively, but fourth quarter we have to be able to execute. And so we're going to keep working, keep trying to get better, and try to finish the season on a strong note.
Patrick, thanks for the time. Happy Thanksgiving, man.
Oh, appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving, man.
And that was Patrick Mahomes after the game with Evan Washburn down on the field. Hey, he's 10-1, and it was a great game today. You know, he struggled this year sometimes with taking care of the football, but today very efficient. And when the Chiefs needed the most, I mean, you looked up at the clock, 1:46 left, all 3 timeouts for the Chiefs. It was a given. I mean, I don't know if you are betting people out there who's ever listening, but that was just free money for the Chiefs to set up a game winner there, a game-winning field goal off the foot of Spencer Schrader. Chiefs get it done 30-27. It'll be a short week for them. They will welcome the Las Vegas Raiders on Friday at Arrowhead Stadium. Kickoff will be at 2 p.m. We'll take our first break of the show. When we come back, probably we'll have some player audio and get to your thoughts right here on the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. is our play of the game, which is brought to you by Central Bank of the Midwest. And you are listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. We're going to hop on the phone lines, get your thoughts as we do every second segment of our show every time we get the outcome of this game for the Kansas City Chiefs. So first caller here is going to be Travis. Travis, you're on the Red and Gold Postgame Show. What's going on, man?
Yeah, this sucks. I don't think I've felt this bad after a win since the Giants game. Was it last year, the year before, when we won like 17-16 or something? I don't even know. Anyway, talking about, I'm not going to waste my time talking about the offensive line. I mean, last week Trey Smith caught some grief for having a low pass grade. We've talked about Mahomes' struggles. I mean, ultimately it's the tackles, right? The tackles are both not great. But going to the defensive side of the ball, I mean, I know we lost Jalen Watson, and we lost Snead this last year with the trade. And Najee Johnson, yeah, he's been getting picked on, but, I mean, honestly, not all of it's his fault. Where did our pass rush go? I mean, we have – people don't want to hear this, but we're paying Chris Jones a ton of money. We're not paying him money to get pressures. We're not paying him $32 million to lead the league in pressures. We want him to lead the league in sacks. We have 2 first-round draft picks on the defensive line. No pressure anywhere. Outside of blitzes, there's nothing. And so Spagnuolo needs to change his scheme a little bit. You can't send everybody with a guy who's vulnerable on the outside. And I know that it sucks to say that, but, not every team in the NFL has 2 amazing corners on their team. We're pretty privileged to have Trent McDuffie and to have the playmakers that we have. And it's been a luxury the last 2 years to have 2 really, really good corners where you could blitz everybody, leave 2 guys on an island, and be fine. That's not who we are anymore. We can't do that. And so for everybody who wants to throw, and I'm not a Najee Johnson guy, but I don't think it's fair for him to take all the arrows every single week. I mean, you make the most money, the criticism should go to you first. And Chris Jones and the rest of the defensive line need to take some of these arrows for the defensive backs. It's not great, but they definitely could help the defensive backfield. I mean, when Bryce Young is running around with all kinds of time to throw the ball, he's going to eventually find somebody open, and it's probably going to be your weaker guy. So somebody needs to get home and make a play. I thought the offense played really good. I was excited. One nitpick, though, that I do have, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but the offense looked unstoppable in the first half. And then in the second half, especially in the red zone, why do they have to go away from what's working? They try to muck it up with runs that don't work and misdirect plays that don't work, and just call the offense and let Pat do his thing. When you let Pat do his thing, they score points. When you don't and you try to fool everybody, you end up kicking field goals or ending up with 4 holding penalties in a row and end up going from the 10-yard line or whatever it was to the 35. So, I mean, I think it's a collective effort between the play calling on offense and then the defensive line needs to be better. It just does. So that's what I got. Thank you for taking my call. Sorry for the rant. That was a frustrating 3 hours of football for me. So.
Hey, no worries about it, Travis. I would imagine that many people are feeling the same way that you are. And I think you bring up a great point when it comes to the defense. I have certainly picked on the secondary. Hell, I picked on it in the first part of today's show. But at the end of the day, it feels like the strength of this defense, when they're at their best, they're getting after the quarterback. I mean, Chris Jones is constantly back there. George Karlaftis is picking up somebody in the backfield, right? He's winning those one-on-ones. At times you got Mike Dana, who did have a sack today. You know, he's giving you some valuable snaps. And even from time to time, somebody like a Felix Anudike-Uzomah can make a play or two. But today, I just didn't think there was enough heat, back there on Bryce Young. And you knew that if you got even somewhat of a little bit of pressure back there in the first half, or maybe at times in crucial drives in the second half, Bryce Young would have made a mistake. He would have made a bad throw. He would have made the rookie mistake or the second-year player mistake. And it just never really felt like the Chiefs' defensive line were causing enough havoc in the backfield. And, you have to know that your secondary is down a couple of guys. They're not going to be able to cover somebody for 4 to 5 seconds back there when you're just giving the quarterback all day to throw. That, to me, is a little bit of a misconception when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. Pretty much any one of those guys can look good. Any one of those guys. You give them a clean pocket and they got time to throw, they can make plays like what Bryce Young did today. And the Chiefs' defensive line just wasn't getting back there enough. And you can only count on Jamari Conner, Najee Johnson, guys that are playing more and more reps every single week to hold down the fort back there. There's going to be times that they make a mistake. So if you can avoid some of those mistakes, it likely leads to you getting to the backfield, getting pressure on the quarterback, whether it be Josh Allen or Bryce Young. But in the last 2 games, only 2 sacks from the Chiefs' defensive line. All right, we're going to go back to the phone lines. We're going to hear from Kyle. Kyle, you're on the Red and Gold postgame show.
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
Real quick. So I do a Facebook Live. I do my own, / podcast, Chief Snack. And last night I went on live and I said this to my friends. I said, this is a game that this is a team that the Chiefs need to smash and make a statement to say, hey, this is why we're the defending Super Bowl champs. Just like the Detroit Lions have been stomping everybody to the ground, this was a team that the Chiefs could have done. And they did in the first half. And I said this on live, here's how you're going to beat the Panthers. You're going to run the ball with Kareem Hunt, smash the ball down the field, play action passes. And it was working in the first half. The Chiefs were scoring on every single possession because they were doing those things, running the football down the field, running the football and throwing the ball. Second half, for some reason, Andy Reid gets conservative all of a sudden and thinks that we have a double-digit lead. Okay, we're going to take the foot off the gas. That is something that's always kind of drove me nuts about Andy Reid and in the second half. But the defense could not stop anybody today, and they were getting beat off the line of scrimmage. A win is a win. I'm not going to gripe too much because I thought the offensive line, I thought the offense played good. I thought the offense played good enough today, but our defense was giving up too much, and of course our tackles stink. Jaron Taylor and Andre Morris. I don't know. And by the way, and here's my question for you, and then I'll listen off the air. But when do we expect our new left tackle to play? Because this cannot come sooner than enough. Because our left tackle and by the way, Jaron Taylor had 2 penalties on the same drive. He had a holding call and a hands to the face. When is enough with the Jaron Taylor show? I'll listen off the air, but sorry to get frustrated, but thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, of course, Kyle. And, hey, I'm not faulting anybody today to get a little bit fired up. If you want to rant, if you want to vent, you absolutely can do it right here on the Red and Gold postgame show brought to you by Boda Box Wine. When it comes to the tackle play, here's the issue, is we're now entering the final – what is it going to be, 6 games of the season? There's not a lot left on the schedule. And does Humphreys come in and take that job from Wanya Morris? Because I think the easy thing to say is, well, it can't be worse, right? You replace him there, and with the way Wanya Morris has looked, the way Jawan Taylor has looked, you're getting an upgrade there. I don't think it's as simple as that. I certainly think it would be great for the Chiefs if Humphreys comes in and all of a sudden he's playing not only better than what Wanya Morris gave you, but better than what Donovan Smith gave you last year. And you look at some of the numbers, those two guys are having somewhat comparable seasons. Like what Wanya Morris is doing at left tackle is kind of comparable to what Donovan Smith is doing. Jawan Taylor man, I was praising him all the way up until the Buffalo game. And the Buffalo game, he had his issues, and today, once again, he had his issues. It's becoming, to me, a very glaring issue. I think when you're winning a lot of football games, you can sweep it under the rug because after all, it's a 3-7 team they just played, and they won 30-27. And a lot of what I've said so far is it's not a win you feel very great about, even though you don't apologize for victories. But think about some of the chaos so far in Week 12 in the NFL. The Vikings, who just went to 9-2, needed an overtime field goal to beat the 4-7 Bears. You had a thriller in Houston where the 3-8 Titans went on the road and beat the Texans 32-27. And then the snow game in Cleveland on Thursday, an 8-2 Steelers team gets beat by a 2-win Browns team. That's the NFL, right? So sometimes you have your off days, you have your off nights, and you move on from it. And this Chiefs team, they might be the best in the league and notorious for, hey, whatever you see from them in the regular season, they just turn it up a notch in the postseason. And I really do believe that. I don't think this version of the defense is going to be the version that we see in January. However, to your point here, Kyle, and again, I don't fault you for being a little bit upset, the tackle play is constantly being an issue every single week. They're at times able to mask them on some good drives, but as I brought up, Carolina was 31st in, I think, pressure rate. That's the stat that I saw earlier from Mike Golick Jr., I think it was. 31st in the league in pressure rate. And they sacked Patrick Mahomes 5 times today. And I think all 5 of those sacks, if I'm not mistaken, came from somebody off the edge, whether it be a blitz, Juwan Taylor picking up the wrong guy, or somebody winning a one-on-one. Wanya Morris got beat by Jadeveon Clowney one-on-one on one of those first-half sacks. It's just frustrating to watch right now. Now, I also think there's a big reason why the Chiefs spent some money to bring in a tackle who hasn't played yet this year, though has had success as early as last year. He was just recovering from an injury. So when will he be ready? I mean, I think you can slow play it a little bit with the short week. You got the Raiders coming in. I think that Max Crosby and that Raiders defensive line could give Wanya Morris and Juwan Taylor some problems because a Carolina defensive line that's not very good was able to give them a lot of problems. But I think if you can target maybe that Sunday night game against the Chargers, that to me would make sense because that's going to be a huge game, and that's one you're going to need an upgrade at left tackle. Excuse me. So to me, I'm not expecting it to be on Friday. Who knows? Maybe they bring him in and it just doesn't work out. Maybe Wanya Morris still is the better option, but certainly a frustrating performance from both of the tackles today. Let's hear from Jerry. Jerry, you're on the Red and Gold postgame show, man.
Hello, I hope you guys had a great time watching the game. I'd like to say probably 5 points that I've got to make. First off, I'm happy with the Chiefs and what they did. I'm happy with KU, K-State, Mizzou, and to Todd Lebo, I'm very happy with Oklahoma. I thought that was awesome. So everybody who entered, Dylan, me, everybody. I don't know who you root for, if it's Mizzou or someone else, Jack, but you do a great job on the post-game shows and everything else that you do.
All right, I think we just lost Jerry there, if I'm not mistaken. I did catch a little bit of what you were saying. Praises for the college teams, and then certainly giving us some praise here on the Red and Gold postgame show. Was loving the kind words there, Jerry. I just don't think we can get you loud and clear. So Dylan's going to try to get you right back on here. But I think the direction that we should all be focusing on is, when will that stride happen again for the defense? Is this the defense that it's going to come down to matchups? Is this a defense that is going to get stronger in the secondary? The Chiefs were very high on Najee Johnson in training camp. And right now, he just really by circumstance has become a weak link of this defense because quarterbacks are targeting him. And, I will say this. As much flack as I've given the secondary in the last 2 weeks, Najee Johnson has been in good position on a handful of these plays. I mean, he's been great in coverage down the field. I thought he got his head turned a couple of times. Sometimes he's been flagged, but I will say that for the most part, he's been in good position. The ball's just being placed perfectly. All right, we're going to try Jerry again. Jerry, do you got us loud and clear?
Yeah, I do. And
there we go. We got you.
I appreciate Dylan. Thank you for letting me call back. My shining star was Samaje Perine. I know that I appreciate everything that the Chiefs did. I'm not freaking out on how close the game was because I expected it to be close anyway. But Samaje Perine, I get a kick out of him. I hope they use him more often. There's a couple other things, though. I guess for all the people that are upset about the way the Chiefs played, I think as punishment, they should make all the players that played this week play next week too. That's the biggest punishment I want to give them. So I do appreciate your show. You and Dylan do quality work. I wish I were better at this, but I'll go ahead and listen off the air. Samaje Perine is a shining star for me.
Hey, you're not giving yourself enough credit, Jerry. You do great every time you call in here. We love the points that you make. And Samaje Perine, I think, is a great pick. A little bit of an unsung hero, and I don't think that's just today. I think Samaje Perine has been, a big part of this unit throughout the season with the veteran leadership. I think he's helped out some of the younger guys in the running back room. And I'm curious what the Chiefs are going to do once Isaiah Pacheco is back. I mean, I thought that he and Charles Omenihu were close going into this week. They wanted to give him an extra week of rest. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense to play Pacheco on a short week, even if he is really close to being ready, because Kareem Hunt should be fine going up against the Raiders' defensive front. But, yeah, Samaje Perine, I hope he's somebody that stays around all season long. I think he's great in the pass-catching game. I think he's been good a little bit from time to time on winning some of those pass block situations in the backfield. So Samaje Perine, both in the running back room today and then on special teams being highlighted. So I do love that take there, Jerry, giving some love to guys that aren't always going to show up in the box score. But certainly I do believe that Samaje Perine did make a pretty big impact today. All right, we're going to get to our final two callers here. Want to make sure I got the names right. Let's go to Dan in KCK. Dan, what's on your mind?
Hey, Jack, how you doing? Great bounce-back win by the Chiefs. Offense did great, and all great with 2 touchdowns and DeAndre Hopkins with a touchdown. And, yeah, you're right, Jack. The defense is, got to wrap up better. And, when you tackle him, the tackling's got to be better. And Nazeeh Johnson, I have confidence in him, and he's got a good backup with Justin Reid and Trent McDuffie back there. So I'm not worried about the secondary. They'll get it together. Let's take care of the Raiders Friday. Take care of yourself, Jack.
Love it. You can always count on the positivity coming from Dan, giving us the enthusiasm as well. It still is a bounce-back win for this team. Whether it was ugly or pretty, it's a win. And you're now 10-1. You still got that number 1 seed in possession. We all know how important that is going to be going into January. All right, let's get to our last caller here. Eric, you are on the Red and Gold Postgame Show. What's going on, man?
Hey, Jack, I hope I bring a better service than Jerry, and I'm going to have less energy than Dan, but I have a couple questions for you. So the way teams are beating our blitzing defense, how are they doing that?
I do. Right? Yeah, I think that's been the way to pick up some of those disguised blitzes from Spags. That was working so well early on in the year, but for guys like Bryce Young, Josh Allen, he's such a talented guy, but I think today with Dave Canales and Bryce Young, it was – if we see that disguised blitz coming, if we pick it up, it's to get the ball out quickly, hopefully on a quick route, an out route, or a slant.
Yeah, and that's something I can't understand with the Chiefs' offense is like if the tackles are so weak, they're playing so poorly. Rasheed Rice is the only receiver on the team that can run a slant. So, bring that back, make it quick, not wide, bring it inside, make it something fast. And then I'm going to compare Nazeeh Johnson to Charvarius Ward. He's been picked on a lot. He's given up some kind of freak catches. If you remember that Seattle game back in the day when Charvarius went in. So I have a lot of promise for Nazeeh Johnson. So let's all keep our heads up for him. Thanks, man. Good show.
I appreciate it. And I think that's a great comparison. And, I think we got to give this coaching staff the benefit of the doubt. Even if you want to have your criticisms here and there, I know I have. I'm not perfect with that. But when they buy into a guy, when they really believe a guy can get there, and Nazeeh Johnson going back to St. Joe was one of those guys they really liked, you kind of feel like he could have that trajectory, right? I mean, you got to get him out there. You got to get him the reps. It's not going to kill you in a game against Carolina. It's likely not going to kill you in a game against the Raiders, but you're hoping come January when you face Buffalo, when you face Baltimore, when you're in the AFC Championship game, he's not somebody that a quarterback goes, where's number 13? Or with Chamari Connor, where's number 27? we are targeting them. And if they do, you can make that big play. You can get your head turned around. You can have a pass breakup. You can have an interception. I mean, Jamari Conner had that against Buffalo. Those are the type of moments that are growths for them. Those are the type of moments they can point to and say, use that, box that in, channel that, and just move on to the next week. I think Najee Johnson, though, from time to time, he gets flagged. He's, picked on. He gets beaten coverage. Yeah, that's going to look bad, and people are going to remember that with the cornerback because it's very similar to the left tackle play and the right tackle play is you don't really focus on them unless they're doing their job incorrectly or they're doing a poor job. We don't notice Trent McDuffie for the majority of the game. The only time I heard Trent McDuffie's name was on that pass interference on the two-point conversion. That means he was doing his job. But Najee Johnson is somebody the Chiefs are going to continue to run out there. It's going to be a sink-or-swim moment for him. And I do think that he could have that similar path that Travarius Ward did because I remember that Sunday night game against Seattle where Russell Wilson just went back to him over and over and over again, and it cost the Chiefs that game. In the secondary, excuse me, guys, the secondary, they were constantly picked on in that game, and more importantly, it was something that I think was an issue early on, or at least more so toward the middle half of that season, and then come postseason time, Travarius Ward made a big step forward. We actually do have one more caller here on the line. We're going to get to Gary. Gary, you're going to wrap us up here on the Red and Gold Postgame Show.
Okay, I'll just talk defense. First off, fourth week in a row, they couldn't get a team off the field on their final drive. And if you look at Spagnuolo's history since he's been here, they've had 1 year where they finished in the top half of the league in defense, and that was last year. And yes, the personnel were better, but you've got problems on every level of your defense. Your front four is not getting home. You don't have a lot of speed and athleticism at linebacker, and starting to show as the season has gone on. And you're not getting turnovers because you're not getting home with the front four. You're not getting any pass rush. And like a caller before said, Jones is getting $30 million a year, but let's look at what Beach did in the offseason. You brought back Noddy, Connell, and Warden. Those guys, nobody wanted them, and the Chiefs brought them back. There's a reason teams didn't want any of those guys. And with Jones being a no-show, you're getting exposed because those guys have had to step up, and they're not stepping up. But I'll hang up and listen. Great show.
Hey, thanks for waiting around on the phone lines there, Gary. And I know that when you've called in, it's been about this defense, and they have struggled. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It has been a rough couple of weeks for them. Also, at times, rough for me to keep my voice clean here. Had a couple of moments, had a coughing fit, and when you are remote here and you got this new tie line out here, I don't always have a cough button accessible. So if you hear me getting choked up on this side, don't worry. We're going to get through it, and hopefully won't have any more issues right here on the Red and Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You are listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB. that somebody even filling in for a few weeks is huge for you getting all the way to the Super Bowl. Not that beating the Panthers in the 11th game of the year is going to be the decider or the pivotal turning point for the Chiefs making their run to a three-peat, but Spencer Schrader already is making an impact in Kansas City. He has the game winner today, but also was 3-on-3 of extra points, and he was 3 of 3 on field goals today. So a very good second game as a Kansas City Chief for Spencer Schrader. Here is what he had to say at the podium.
How you guys doing?
Is this a dream scenario, Spencer? I mean, how much do you envision these kind of days?
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest emotion in that moment is gratitude, for the opportunity and just happy that I was able to go out and perform for the team. When you join an organization like the Chiefs, there's a championship culture and there's a standard to uphold. And so for me, I just wanted to come in and do my best for the team for as long as I'm here. I was grateful to be put in a situation today, to step up and put a couple points up there, but that's a team effort at the end of the day. So just really grateful for the opportunity, grateful to be a part of this team.
That last drive, setting up for the field goal there, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind as you were setting up?
I tried to prepare myself before that. You know the talent of the guys on the team. You know who your quarterback is. You know who your offensive weapons are. And so I knew that I'd be getting an opportunity. So I just tried to stay calm, understand that it was going to come at some point. And then when it did come, I was ready. But that comes from belief in the team that they're going to get you in that situation. And then you go out there and just knock it through.
Where would you have felt comfortable from distance-wise?
My job is to just kick it wherever they give it to me. I don't even think about it. Obviously the shorter, the more confidence inspiring, but at the end of the day, I don't get to choose. I just go out there and kick it wherever they put it down.
Was it easier to go through the sort of procedures this week for this game? And, to us, it seems like you only had one practice against Buffalo. So how much did you maybe need a full week of work for a particular moment like this?
It's been a whirlwind for sure, but I think the thing that helps in that situation is that I'm around a group of true professionals. You come in and you have a snapper and a holder that are elite at what they do, and they're trying to get you as comfortable as possible. And so every day is a learning experience. You're working on things. You're refining your craft a little bit each day, but I couldn't be around a better group, a better team. Like everyone reaching out, trying to get you as comfortable as possible to set you up for a situation like this. So yeah, there's growing pains and there's things to figure out, but I think it's gone about as good as it can, given the timeline, given the situation, just being around amazing people.
When a lot of kickers have different routines, right? When they know, like, last-minute drive. Some guys just want to stay in their own mind space. Maybe some guys watch the field. Did you see Patrick scramble in real time?
I can feel what's going on. You can feel like the stadium and getting excited, but you always try to stay calm. You try to keep your emotions suppressed. I really try to simplify what I'm thinking about. So I'm thinking about my craft, and then as a team, we were kind of reflecting on Philippians 4 in our Bible study. Do not be anxious about anything, but instead pray about everything. So really it was a combination of just kind of staying calm, continuing to pray in that instance, and then just simplifying everything and understanding that it's just snap, hold, kick at the end of the day.
So if you hear the crowd and you take a peek just to be like, where are we on the field?
Yeah, well, I need to be aware, So I don't want to be like, oh, I'm up, and then be sprinting out there. So I'm definitely aware of what's going on, but I try not to get too caught up in it and, get all excited. Yeah.
Spencer, I asked you the other day why you chose the Chiefs over the Jets. Is this sort of what you had in mind? A big situation like this?
Yes and no. It's not so much the situation itself. It's more so just being a part of the organization and seeing a team that's capable of doing what we did today. I just wanted to be around an elite staff, elite group of players, people in support roles. Like our equipment staff is amazing. Like everyone's very on top of things here. Everyone's very structured and organized. And I just wanted to be a part of that, see what that was like, see what it took to win at the highest level. Whether I get an opportunity to, put the icing on the cake doesn't really matter because I'm gaining value either way, just by being a part of this place, just by being in this organization.
All right. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you, guys.
And that was Spencer Schrader at the podium after kicking the game-winning field goal in the Chiefs' 30-27 win over the Carolina Panthers. That was your locker room report, brought to you by Twin Peaks.
The Chiefs Locker Room Report is brought to you by Twin Peaks. No one does football like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, they have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice balls. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu, second to none. And don't forget about their 29-degree man-sized drafts at Twin Peaks.
All right, we are going to take another break here on the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. When we come back, we are hoping to hear from the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, what he had to say after a 30-27 win over the Carolina Panthers. You are listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, let's give it one Chiefs here. How about those Chiefs?
Feel it, baby.
Yeah, certainly. How about those 10-1 Kansas City Chiefs? And there is absolutely some truth to what Andy Reid is saying there, because as ugly as a win as this could be against a bad Panthers team that struggles in numerous categories, you're 10-1. And the goal right now is to hang on to the number 1 seed in the AFC and make everybody else go through Kansas City if they're to get to the Super Bowl. So with that being the focus, here's what it comes back to. If the Chiefs get the 1 seed here in the next month and a half, are we really going to remember this game against Carolina? Are we really going to nitpick every little thing that went wrong in a win against Carolina? You're not going to. That's just the reality of this situation, right? Last year, you remember when the Chiefs beat Denver in Kansas City? Maybe if you were there, you remember the game, but I know for a lot of people out there, it might not be at the front of your mind. The front of your mind, or maybe in the middle part of your mind because it's a new season, is the Chiefs' postseason wins. If the Chiefs find a way to lock up the number 1 seed, I think that's going to take beating the Chargers at Arrowhead and maybe beating Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. But if you have those bigger wins in the back half of your schedule, it's not really going to matter about the issues you had against Carolina in your 11th game of the season. And that's kind of what I took away from Andy Reid's post-game speech that was captured there by CBS. Hey, we got to clean some things up, but winning is big. Anytime you win in the NFL, it's a big one because all of these guys are paid to beat you, the opponents you're facing. Now, Carolina may be a bad football team, but it's still grown men over there. And grown men that were hoping to pull off an upset today, and they did come damn close in pulling off an upset of the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. All right, let's get Andy Reid's opening thoughts after the Chiefs' 30-27 win over the Panthers.
There are no injuries. Hendershot, Peyton had a right calf that cramped up on him, but other than that, he came back in and did a nice job there. Thank you to the fans. There was a lot of red in the stands, and we sure appreciate the support. Heck of a game. It ended up as a heck of a game there. But there were some good things. There were some good things we could take out of this. Pat had a big day, 24-33 for over 240 yards. So, and then the big scramble at the end. I mean, that was a beautiful thing. Noah had a big day with 66 yards on 4 catches, a couple TDs in there. Third downs were great. Matt Nagy does a great job with those. So we were 7 for 12 there. And then defensively, Najee again came up as a leading tackler on the defensive side and did a good job throughout. Dana with the 4 tackles, and then he had the big strip sack there. And then most of all, listen, Spencer closing it out. That's a whole lot of pressure for a new guy, and he's in here replacing for us right now future Hall of Famer. So I mean that's not easy to do in these games, and he did a great job. Too many penalties as we worked this thing. We had 9 penalties for 90 yards. Too much, and we've got to make sure we take care of business on third downs. Again, both sides, we're working that, and but we've got to make sure we get off the field and then offensively stay on the field. So other than that, time's yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at what this offense was able to do today. Staying out there was at times pretty easy for them. In fact, there were a couple times they got off the field pretty quickly because they were scoring so quickly. The first drive of the game, that looked easy. Everything that was called on that opening drive, the opening script, it was perfect. And it led to a wide-open touchdown catch for Noah Gray, who's been excellent in back-to-back weeks. But that was the first drive of the game. The last drive of the game was arguably even better. It gets capped off really by that 33-yard run by Patrick Mahomes. How many times in his career has he just taken off and made the big play, made the big move, juked somebody out, whether it be near the sideline or up the middle? You can remember multiple in the Super Bowl. You can remember that AFC Championship game against Tennessee. You can remember one earlier this year in San Francisco. And once again, he was able to do it with the game on the line. Here is Andy Reid on Patrick Mahomes in those clutch situations.
Yeah, I tell you, he has a great feel for the game. He knows by coverage where guys are and what they're trying to accomplish with the coverage. then he can feel the front. So does a nice job there.
Yeah, I think we had heard Ian Eagle say on the broadcast that it was something that felt like an eternity for Patrick Mahomes. You get the ball back, it's 27-27. They got 3 timeouts. A minute 36 was it where they got the ball, and Ian Eagle goes, that's an eternity for that man over there. And it just felt like a given. As I said, if you're a betting man and you didn't sprinkle down a little bit of money there for the Chiefs to pull that off, you just missed out on free money, because that was such an obvious drive for Kansas City in that spot. Cool moment there. Cool moment on that run. And, yeah, he's certainly got a knack for it. Big-time moments, big-time situations. You're going to have somebody like Patrick Mahomes being able to pull through. Next piece of audio we're going to hear from is about that opening drive and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense starting fast.
First quarters this year have been kind of ugly for you guys. You guys came out really fast. What would you just think of the first couple of drives?
Yeah, no, I think offensively the guys, they started fast, and they had made a point for that. Matt had made that a huge emphasis this week, and the guys followed with it and did some nice things there. So, but we got to keep building on it. We can't take plays away from ourselves, and it's too much.
If there was an extra ribbon to give out there for the Chiefs offense, you put up 30 points, everybody's going to be feeling pretty good. But I think taking care of the football today was really an improvement for this bunch. They could have crumbled on some of those drives, tried to force the ball in where it didn't need to be. They could have tried to do too much on a certain drive. It's pretty seamless for them today. So the offense starting quickly, ending the game with efficiency, and overall, I think B+ to A- effort from Kansas City's offense. Now to the other side of the ball, talking about this defense, but also on the other side of the field. Bryce Young and his performance today for the Panthers was almost good enough to take down the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. What did Andy Reid think about Young's performance?
I thought he did a heck of a job. Well coached. He's lucky to have that redhead over there, number 14, too, to help him out. Nothing like that. Having a veteran player that kind of sees it the same way you do. And then he's very talented. And the organization made a nice move by taking him.
Yeah, the redhead he's referring to is Andy Dalton, who took Bryce Young's spot a little bit earlier on in the year, though it wasn't for long. And if Bryce Young looks like this for the rest of the year, which will be tough to do, but if this is a pivotal point in his career, he got the confidence now. We saw Zach Wilson go the other way after having a performance like this against Kansas City. If Bryce Young goes in a positive direction, I think it would be with some mentorship, certainly helping out with Andy Dalton. Taking that job back, I don't think he's going to lose it. If he looks like that, he's not losing a job for the Carolina Panthers. And fortunately for the Panthers, this is the best-case scenario, because I don't think they wanted Andy Dalton being their quarterback when it was all said and done after using a 1-1 pick on Bryce Young. Andy Reid also went on to talk about the kicker, his kicker, and his game winner today against Carolina. Here's Andy Reid on Spencer Schrader.
Yeah, no, we had confidence. I'd like, as close as you can get. I like, because percentages for any kicker go up. But but we have confidence in him. He's got a big leg.
Yeah, the special teams, the offense, they were thriving today. I don't think there's any other way to put it. I thought the offense looked good. Certainly Spencer Schrader didn't have any issues. That's his job until Harrison Butker gets back. Just don't be talked about in a negative way. If you've got game-winning kicks down the road here, all the better. But if you just make your extra points, you make the gimmies, I don't think anybody is going to have an issue with what Spencer Schrader does in a Chiefs uniform. But as for the defense, there were issues today. There were a lot of issues that we talked about. And here was Andy Reid on the defensive line and their inability to get to Bryce Young today.
Yeah, I mean, those are things we can keep working on, and we'll get better with that as we go here. So, we've always been good at that. We've just got to keep grinding it out here.
Now, I do agree with that. It's been a strength for this defense with Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Mike Dana. Turk Wharton this year has had a couple of great pressures and sacks that he's been able to get as a part of that Chiefs defensive line. But right now, last 2 weeks, it's been a little bit non-existent. Only 2 sacks in those last 2 games. They had none against Josh Allen. That certainly can't happen if these teams are to meet again in January. Back to the offense, Andy Reid kind of doubled down on what it's like to have Patrick Mahomes with the game on the line.
Yeah, that's a good thing from a head coach's standpoint. He does a nice job with all that.
Yeah, I mean, there might not be another quarterback out there that you want with the game on the line, because games like this to him, tie game, you might tense up just because it's an NFL game. It's the fourth quarter. You have to get points there. But he's had much bigger moments. And when you've got those bigger moments under your belt, this almost feels like second nature to you. And it certainly looks like that when the game is on the line. But Andy Reid, always going to have confidence in his guy, number 15, to go and win him the football game. Back to the defensive line there was one thing they were able to do, which was a key point for that defense, and that was slowing down Chuba Hubbard. They did have their moments where they were able to move the ball down the field with their legs. Bryce Young did have 20 yards on 3 carries, but Chuba Hubbard, 16 for 58. It looks a lot like the stat lines of a lot of starting running backs the Chiefs have faced this year. Here was Andy Reid on slowing down Hubbard.
How much of a defensive emphasis was put on stacking the box and trying to slow down and limit Chuba Hubbard?
Yeah, well, he's another good player, and they were able to get their young guy in there too. So we were very aware of him and his ability, but at the same time, you got to deal with the quarterback too, and the wide receivers. Thielen came back, and he's just getting better and better as he goes here. So.
You're not going to feel great about what the defense did today, but I can tell you this, and looking ahead to the postseason, if you're going to beat the Chiefs, it's just not going to be with somebody on the ground. It's not going to be from your running back. It may be your quarterback making plays through the air, but that's putting a lot of pressure on your quarterback to go and beat Patrick Mahomes in the postseason by throwing the ball, 30, 35, 40 times a game. You got to have some effort from the backfield, and the Chiefs have done a great job this year. Even in games where they've struggled to keep teams out of the end zone, they pretty much stop any running back no matter what the name is. It could be Chuba Hubbard, or it could be somebody like Derrick Henry. It's all the same to them. And lastly, Andy Reid did talk about Noah Gray and his second touchdown catch of the day.
Yeah, Pat made a great throw. He made a nice move at the top of it. Big body. Pat put it up where only he could get it. And I thought Noah, again, used his body well to protect the ball.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
And that was Andy Reid after the Chiefs' 30-27 victory over the Carolina Panthers. They moved to 10-1 on the season and will welcome the Las Vegas Raiders coming up on Friday. That's right, Black Friday football for the Chiefs, a 2 p.m. kick at Arrowhead Stadium. We'll take another break here. When we come back, you just heard from head coach Andy Reid. Now you're going to hear from the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. This is the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. Patrick Mahomes is next on Sports Radio 810 WHB. one of our calls of the game. So for DeAndre Hopkins' touchdown today, that will be the Andy Reid call of the game, which is brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction. You can make the right call as well by visiting shamrockroofer.com. Shamrock Roofing and Construction, one call does it all. Now it's time to hear from the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. We had just heard from Andy Reid. You missed any part of that, you can always check it out on the podcast page after the show on the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. So Patrick Mahomes opened up his press conference talking about that final drive and more specifically that scramble that set up the game-winning field goal for Spencer Schrader. Here is Patrick Mahomes.
Man coverage, they got into a type of like match zone, so they covered up our routes, and I got out to the left, and at that point in the game, yards were more important than getting out of bounds, and so with the 3 timeouts, I tried to just cut through, and I think it was Justin Watson. I haven't seen the video, but I thought he got a great block. I think it was him, and I was able to get down the field and get out of bounds. Kind of fumbled out of bounds, but I got out of bounds, and so I got us in field goal range.
Patrick, how is it before the play that it's just in your mind you can get extra yards there and not go out of bounds? Do you think of it as you're running? Can you kind of take us through where you are?
Yeah, I think it's just certain times in games. It's not like I pre-plan like that stuff. It's just whenever it comes down to it and you got to make the play, I feel like I try to go out there and make the play, and that's why I feel like it happens kind of later in games sometimes. And in the playoffs, you don't want to slide. You have to kind of put your body out there, knowing that you can take hits and stuff like that. But we've been able to make some big runs and some big moments.
Could you have made that scramble a couple weeks ago, considering you were dealing with the ankle?
I don't know. I think I always say adrenaline will get you through it. But it is helping a lot when you get a little bit healthier and you can kind of get your body back into it. And a credit to the training staff. They stayed on top of me about being in there as much as possible. And I finally was able to get off that list this last week and kind of get back to just my normal routine. And we went out there and made something happen.
Yeah, they certainly did make something happen, not only on that final drive, really all day long. It's not a great Carolina defense, but don't we feel a lot better talking about an offense just doing its job, doing what they were supposed to do against a bad defense, than really having to highlight too much more in the last part of this show that the defense wasn't able to do their job against a bad Panthers offense. But offensively, got to give 2 thumbs up for Patrick Mahomes. More on that final drive. Patrick Mahomes had the chance to speak on that, what he was feeling to get the ball back and not want to ever give it back to Bryce Young, Carolina, and Spencer Schrader having that game-winning field goal in just his second game as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs.
What's the mindset of the offense at the onset of the drive?
Yeah, I mean, you want to get as close as possible, give our guy a chance to make a field goal. We call it where you go down at the 2-yard line, 1-yard line, whatever it is. And we were just trying to get a completion first, which we did. And then I think I still could have thrown it out there a little bit further for Xavier. But other than that, I thought we executed at a high level like we were in that moment. Just we got to be better in the whole entire fourth quarter, not just in those big moments at the end of the game.
What kind of confidence did you have in the rookie to make that kick in that situation?
I mean, I had a ton of confidence. I've seen him do it in practice. Since he's been here, he's been going out there working. And so I had a ton of confidence. We got him into his sweet spot, and he nailed it right through there.
Yeah, the easiest way to win over your teammates when you're a new kicker is to just have a performance like that. Nails, a 41-yarder today, and also had the game winner. And it was straight through there. Hey, Spencer Schrader, he may not have many more kicks as a member of the Chiefs because Harrison Butker, I'm assuming, will be back here in about 3 weeks. Maybe he does need to kick a little bit longer, but I think going into this game, since he didn't really get that chance against Buffalo, I wanted to see if the leg could do it, if the leg could do it in a high-pressured moment, and certainly some of those questions were answered. Patrick Mahomes also talked about the red zone success that they had, and Noah Gray having back-to-back games with 2 touchdowns.
4 and 6 of the 8 drives today. Are you pretty pleased with just the progress you made with the offense as a whole?
Yeah, I thought we did a great job moving the football. Like you said, you got to execute at a higher efficiency in the red zone. But I mean, that defense is a good defense. I mean, they've played hard the entire year. They have a great defensive coordinator, a lot of great players that I've went up against in other places. And so I thought we did a good job of executing the offense, moving the ball. But like I said, just in that second half, especially in that fourth quarter, we got to be better. I mean, just putting the game away and not giving them chances. But we were able to do it there at the end.
Noah mentioned just the fact that you gave him the answers before the test on his second touchdown, that what coverage was going to come. Can you kind of take us through recognizing that and then going down on that play?
Yeah, it's we go through it every week. It's not just me. I mean, me, the quarterback coaches, and the players. We go through certain checks you get to versus certain coverages, and I was able to see by the way they lined up, they were getting into their cover zero look. Just alerted the guys, make sure they saw that what I saw, gave the check at the line of scrimmage, and then you trust your guy to go out there and make a play and just put it up there. Well, I threw a great ball, just put it up there and let him just go up and make a play.
Yeah, lots of great throws from Patrick Mahomes today, and his offense putting up 30 points. It was also a great day for his counterpart in Bryce Young. It's been a struggle so far in his NFL career, but if there was any time to have a confidence booster, today was one of those games and going up against Patrick Mahomes. Here is what Mahomes had to say on the performance of the young Bryce Young.
Yeah, no, I thought he played his tail off, man. He throws a really good football. You know, it's funny. I think Texas Tech was the first one to offer him when he was in 8th grade, and I was at Texas Tech. So I remember watching his highlight tapes then and knew he was going to be a great player. And obviously, he went to Bama and was the first draft pick. But I think it's been cool to see him bounce back these last few weeks and play some great football because, you know, I know he has it. I've seen it for a long time. And he gave us a scare today, man, because he played his tail off.
Threatened by 8th grade Bryce Young.
I was hoping to be out of there before he got there. So, no, he's been a great player for a long time and won a lot of football games.
Yeah, I mean, if on top of having that confidence and just playing well, to hear that from a guy who has won multiple MVPs, he's won multiple Super Bowls, you're likely trying to emulate some of that success. Carolina's still a long ways off of that, but this could also be a stepping stone for him. He needed to see a game go like this. The Panthers have been playing good football now for the last handful of weeks. They were close to pulling off the shocker today, but that also shows you just where Carolina is still and where Kansas City is trending toward. And speaking of trending toward, winning some of these close games, here was Patrick Mahomes to close out his press conference on grinding out a lot of these close wins.
Is that a good thing or bad thing, heading forward? Do you like to have a few blowouts?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to have some blowouts. You want to be a little calmer in the fourth quarter. But I've always said it can be a good thing as you get to the playoffs and later in the season. Just knowing that you've been in those moments before, and knowing how to kind of attack it, but play by play, not making it too big of a moment. But no, I mean, I would say this more than anybody, I would love to win a game, not by the very last play.
The last one, Nate.
Patrick, I asked a couple guys in the locker room, like, you guys have talked so much about, like, the grind of the season. When that phrase kind of gets mentioned, does it remind you of days like today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all about getting better. I think that's the best thing about playing in the NFL. It's never like the team that's playing the beginning of the season the best is playing the best at the end of the season. It's about just constantly getting better, and you know it's going to be a grind. And I think we've done a great job of that. Coach Reid does a great job of planning it so that we're playing our best football at the end of the year. And there's a lot to learn from today. There's good, there's bad. We got to just go back, learn from that, and then know that we have a short week against a hungry football team in the Raiders that is coming to our house.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
Appreciate you.
Yep, it'll be the Raiders and Chiefs on Friday. Short week for Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. A 2 p.m. kick at Arrowhead Stadium. We'll be talking a little bit on that to close out our show. You are listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Vineyards, Manteca, California. When we come back, we're going to hear from Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He's next on Sports Radio 810 WHB. choice in finding Noah Gray for the opening touchdown of today's game between the Chiefs and the Panthers. And the right choice is presented by Choice Solutions, your trusted, locally owned IT partner since 1985, providing IT expertise, services, and solutions to help your business grow. You can also make the right choice today by going to choicesolutions.com. It's now time to hop back on the phone lines and hear from Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He's brought to you by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to CapOneLending.com. Well, Matt, it just had to be so obvious, didn't it? It was a big spread against Carolina. The Chiefs the last 2 years just don't really feel like blowing anybody out. So did you expect today's game to come down to the wire like that, or were you thrown off like I'm sure the rest of the NFL was?
I allowed myself to believe that the Chiefs were just going to go out there and put the Panthers down. And at halftime, I felt pretty good about that. That this was like, okay, this is going to be a double-digit win. Chiefs probably going to cover. Everything's going to be fine. It'll be an easy afternoon. didn't end up that way. So I guess I should just stick to my belief that until the Chiefs actually blow out somebody, they're not going to blow out anybody. They're just going to continue to play these close games.
Well, it's not like it was one of those typical ugly wins where the Chiefs can only put up 16 or 17 points and the defense struggles to get off the field. In fact, there were a lot of positives to take away from the offensive output, but also, Matt, the theme today was that the defense, once again, just couldn't get off the field, and they let a quarterback like Bryce Young really carve them up. I thought one of the comparisons that made me think a lot about Bryce Young's performance today was Zach Wilson's performance against the Chiefs last year on Sunday Night Football, where you didn't expect a lot from him, but with a lot of time in the pocket, he was able to make some big plays. So did you see that type of similarity, or was there something else you were noticing from this Chiefs defense against Bryce Young?
Tell you what, that's a great comparison, and kind of unfolded the exact same way. I mean, two quarterbacks that you wouldn't expect to be going up against this defense and having the kind of day that they did, and even kind of the same ways a little bit. I mean, obviously, nothing that the Chiefs did fazed Bryce Young. Blitzing didn't faze him. He converted some big third downs, some long third downs. Converted a couple of big fourth downs. I mean, nothing just at all seemed to faze him, and that's certainly been contrary to the rest of the season. I mean, this is a guy that previously got benched and wouldn't even be starting if it wasn't for probably the car accident that Andy Dalton had. So, now the Panthers, hey, they had a 2-game winning streak coming into this, coming off a bye week, so there's a lot of advantages that maybe they had and some momentum, and that the Chiefs are going to get everybody's best shot because this was the Panthers' chance to make a statement, and obviously, I mean, I think you could absolutely believe and see that they played their best game of the season. It probably is a backward compliment to the Chiefs that once again they take somebody's best shot, even if it's a team that is not on the same level as the Chiefs, but takes their best effort and manages to at least turn them away in their building.
We're talking with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com after the Chiefs' 30-27 victory over the Carolina Panthers. One of our callers asked this question earlier on in the show, Matt, and I'm curious of your thoughts. Early on in the year, whenever Spags was blitzing, had those disguise blitzes, those corner blitzes, they almost always worked. It felt like the perfect time, and either the quarterback didn't pick it up or they disguised it that well. Now it feels like in back-to-back weeks with Josh Allen and Bryce Young, they're almost picking it up every single time. So is that just a credit to the adjustments that are being made, or are things having to be changed up a little bit with those blitzes?
Yeah, I mean, it probably is a compliment to, offenses around the league that they are picking them up. And I wonder if, hey, there isn't a little bit of insight that the Panthers got from Brant Tillis. I mean, he's part of that organization now and spent, a decade in Kansas City in this organization. There's nobody that knows Kansas City inside and out, the players in this group better than a guy like Brant Tillis. So maybe he shared with them some insights and tips that helped them out today. But there's also another problem with the pass rush and the blitzes is that when you're not getting any production from your front four and you're having to lean on the blitzes as much as the Chiefs have been leaning on them, now they're not as selective. Now it's not as situational. It's not being able to blitz at the right time and the right place. Now it's, you're the Chiefs, you're having to blitz more frequently and more often. And the more you do that, the less, I think, efficient and productive that it is. The more teams see the blitz, the more time that they're going to be able to handle it. And, I think we've seen that in the last couple of weeks. Teams have made big plays against the Chiefs' blitzes. Maybe that everybody has seen what the Chiefs have. Maybe, they're being a little repetitive. Maybe there's some clues that teams are picking up on. Not quite sure, but you're right, it doesn't feel like that, especially over the last few weeks, that the blitzes have been as productive as they have been in the past.
Well, looking at the offensive side of things, the more positive outcome in today's game, Noah Gray, second straight week with 2 touchdowns, certainly making the most of a year in which he already got an extension from Brett Veach. So I ask you this question, Matt. Has there been anybody on this roster that has made a bigger leap from last year to this year than Noah Gray?
Yeah, it's a pretty good leap. I mean, right now he's just one reception away from matching or exceeding all of his totals from last year, and we're only 11 games in. I mean, he's got 6 more games to go, so he could easily cruise past most of his career highs. Definitely, I mean, he's having the breakout season. He's making Brett Veach the decision to go ahead and sign him up for the long term, making it look like a smart one because if you had to go out now and renegotiate an extension with Noah Gray, you're paying a lot more than you would have in September. So in August. So I think a really great move by Brett Veach. And Noah Gray is justifying this team's faith in him.
Looking at the running back room today, I thought it was a pretty efficient one from Samaje Perine, both just carrying the ball one time for 13 yards, but also made a couple of big catches coming out of the backfield and nearly took the opening kickoff back. So an impact on special teams. Looking ahead to Friday for the Raiders, maybe Isaiah Pacheco's ready to go. Maybe they do wait another week and get him ready for the Chargers game on Sunday Night Football. But how do you see the Chiefs handling this running back room? Kareem Hunt's going to be staying. Of course, you're adding Isaiah Pacheco. So it comes down to Carson Steele or Samaje Perine. Do you see the Chiefs going one way or the other? Or how do you see them handling Isaiah Pacheco coming back either this game or the game after that?
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how they handle it because, Perine and Steele are completely different backs. I mean, Perine's been your third down guy. Steele has been a guy that can not only obviously be a running back, but has also been a fullback, even kind of an H-back kind of guy. So they give you different skills, different special team skills as well. One's a returner, one's more of a coverage guy, a blocker. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they manage to navigate the roster. I mean, I don't know if it would completely surprise me if Chiefs went with 4 running backs on a game day just because of the multi-versatility that both those guys have and the roles that they're playing. Not that the Chiefs, couldn't have some other guys that be a returner, but obviously Perine had a great return today, so I don't know if you really want to take him off kick returns. Steele has been a pretty valuable member too, and obviously is doing some things for you that I don't know you really have anybody else that can fill in. I mean, if you're going to play the halfback role or fullback role, I mean, yeah, you can pull Noah Gray or Peyton Hendershot into that, but Steele has been kind of useful there. I'm going to be interested to see how they navigate that, and obviously even finding 2 more roster spots for both Isaiah Pacheco and Charles Omenihu is going to be pretty interesting. But it's rare to me that you're an NFL team and you're able to get into this part in the season, and yeah, you've had the injury to Pacheco, but you're getting him back now. But the fact you haven't lost anybody else, I mean, that's one of the reasons why the Chiefs were stashing running backs is that you go through them. It's an NFL season, and other than Pacheco's injury, I mean, the Chiefs have been pretty fortunate at that spot.
We're talking with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. Now, if there was a couple of problems offensively today, even with putting up 30 points, it was the tackle play. Matt, I feel like every time we have you on, we have at least one question talking about the tackle play. But now at least, when you bring in Humphries, there is another name in the mix. So are the Chiefs going to have to go back to the drawing board after a game like this and say, okay, it's competition's back open for left tackle? Jawan Taylor, he's somebody that isn't maybe playing his best football in the last 2 weeks, but he's not moving anywhere at right tackle. This probably comes down to left tackle and the Chiefs being able to shake things up. So how do you see things progressing here over the next couple of weeks? Is Wanya going to hold down that spot? Is Humphries going to come in and take it from him? And if he does, how quickly would that be?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking at least a couple of weeks, if not a couple of games, before Humphries, who I think would really factor in there. It's always possible that maybe that they could use him as a third tackle sooner than they would use him as a starter. But remember, he hasn't played football since the very beginning of January with the ACL injury, and as I was told by someone in the organization, being in shape is not the same as football shape. So they expect it to be a couple of weeks for him to just get back into football shape. Probably spend some time on the scout team in the next couple of weeks just to get his feet back under him and then see where it's at. But they expect, right now, they feel like Wanya Morris is the starter. If DJ Humphries is going to come in, they expect him to push him for playing time. If DJ Humphries beats him out, they're okay with that, and he'll be the starter. Obviously, I think there's also concern about Wanya Morris's knee, and I think that's another reason why they made this signing is, they feel like that there's just one injury away with Wanya and dealing with that bruised kney that, if he can't go, who's in? Well, right now, they got the option for that to be DJ Humphries here in the near future. Like I said, he's not going to be playing against the Raiders. I'd even be surprised if he played the following week against the Chargers. That would, I think, be the soonest that you could see him, but I think I'd probably even be surprised if he played then. After that, we'll see. But, the Chiefs are going into it fairly open-minded, that if Wanya plays well and stays healthy, it could still be his job. But they're not ruling out Humphries pushing him for that starting job either.
And last question for you here, Matt. Really appreciate your time as always. You look ahead to Friday. It's a short week. The Raiders, though they are hanging in there with the Broncos right now, even Max Crosby said it, they're only playing for pride at this point. This is a team that no longer has playoff expectation and has been a disastrous year for Antonio Pierce. But they are just 1 year removed from coming into Arrowhead and beating the Chiefs on Christmas Day. So is there any way they could make it back-to-back years, or is this even a lesser chance of them pulling off the upset than the Panthers did coming into today?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably have to say there's a lesser chance than the Panthers of pulling off the upset because the Chiefs know they'd be on guard. They know that this is a potential. Today against the Panthers was probably more of a trap game than the Raiders will be next week, but it's kind of the same thing. I mean, they've got the Chargers on the other side, so it might have a little bit of your distraction. But given what happened on Christmas Day, I got to think that the Chiefs know that they've got to be prepared for Black Friday. I mean, they can't let that happen 2 years in a row. And I think that this Raiders team might even be just in a little bit more of a mess than they were last year. I mean, they kind of had a little bit of high, I think, last season was coming in and Antonio Pierce and rallying around him. This year, it's going the other way at this time of year. So Chiefs should not be able to sneak up on the Chiefs this time around, and I think the Chiefs are going to be ready for this one.
All right. Well, appreciate your time and stuff as always, Matt. The next time we talk to you, it'll be just a couple days from now on Friday after the Chiefs and Raiders game. So you take care, Matt.
You too. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Same to you. Same to you. There he goes. That's our guy, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. Always so thankful for him coming on the show and giving us a little bit of his time after covering the day with the Chiefs playing and all the way on the road in Carolina. But we will be talking to Matt again this coming Friday, Black Friday, after the Chiefs and Raiders, who will kick off at 2 p.m. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, let's preview that game real quickly between the Chiefs and the Raiders. You are listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Greenlight Stadium flyover banners at your favorite games this fall. GreenlightDispensary.com. And you are tuned in to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, which is brought to you by Boda Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Vineyards, Manteca, California. And before we do our quick dive in to the Chiefs and Raiders, real quickly on that game that'll happen on Friday, a Black Friday game, the 2 p.m. kick at Arrowhead Stadium. That'll be on Amazon Prime, it looks like. We'll give you some rundown of the scores here from around the league, starting things off with the Titans, who beat the Texans in Houston. The Titans covered the 8-point spread with their 32-27 win over Houston. They needed a go-ahead touchdown pass from Will Levis, a 70-yarder, to go up 30-27 with 9:46 to go. Then they had a safety on C.J. Stroud to go up by 5 points in the final minute 20 to go. So the Titans hang on and pull off a stunner against the Texans, who now fall to 7-5 on the year. The best game that was on the slate early on, the noon kickoff, the Cowboys and Commanders. Cooper Rush and the Cowboys hang on to win in Washington. Very similar game to the one in Houston. They win 34-26, but what a wild finish it was. A Terry McLaurin touchdown with under 35 seconds to go happened in the fourth quarter. It was an 86-yard catch and run by Terry McLaurin, a pass coming, of course, from Jaden Daniels. But it was Austin Siebert who missed the PAT, and then moments later, it was a return onside kick to put Dallas up by 8 points as they would hang on to win and get their fourth win of the year. The Commanders now a little bit in a free fall as they fall to 7-5 on the year. The Bucs have no issue with the Giants. They win 30-7 over Tommy DeVito in New York. The Giants fall to 2-9 after they were one of the headlining stories this week in benching and then releasing Daniel Jones. The Bucs cover that 6.5-point spread. The Dolphins take care of business against the New England Patriots, 34-15 in this one. They cover the 7.5-point spread in this game. Tua Tagovailoa threw for 4 touchdowns and 317 yards. Jalen Waddle had 144 receiving yards, 8 catches, and 1 score in this game. The Lions had no issue with Anthony Richardson and the Colts. They win 24-6 to move to 10-1 on the year. They just seem to be obliterating everybody in their path to the 1 seed in the NFC. That is now, I believe, 9 straight wins for Detroit. And in fact, the last time they had a game decided by single digits was against Houston on November 10th. And in that 9-game winning streak, they have only had 1, 2, 3 games decided by single digits. They now have 3 straight home games coming up against the Bears, the Packers, and the Buffalo Bills. They win 24-6 over the Indianapolis Colts. And the Vikings had to go into overtime to take down the Chicago Bears, who continue just to struggle ever since that Hail Mary loss a few weeks back. It is the Vikings moving to 9-2 after a 30-27 win at Soldier Field. In this game, Sam Darnold, a very efficient 22 of 34 for 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Aaron Jones added 106 yards on the ground. Caleb Williams wasn't bad in this one, 32 of 47, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and 340 yards. But the Bears defense did allow 452 total yards of offense to a 9-2 Vikings team that is trying to keep pace with the Detroit Lions. And right now, going on in the league, the Seahawks lead the Cardinals 13-3 with 6:33 left in the third quarter. The Packers are up 17-7 on the Brock Purdy-less San Francisco 49ers, and the Broncos lead the Raiders 16-13 at the end of the third quarter. And looking ahead to Friday, it'll be the Chiefs back at home, Arrowhead Stadium, against that Raiders team who trails by just 3 points to Denver at home right now. We had brought this up when speaking with Matt Derrick. It's all about pride at this point. That came from one of their leaders in Max Crosby. Another disastrous year in Vegas. You felt like this was going to be a turning point year for them. Antonio Pierce was beloved by his entire team. He was the interim coach, and then he stayed there. It was a good hire at the time. But my goodness, has it been a bad year for the Raiders. And you thought for a moment, after they had knocked off Baltimore all the way back in mid-September, that was their time to really start contending, maybe for second place in the AFC West. But they followed up that win against the Ravens with a 36-22 loss to the Carolina Panthers. Bounced back with a 20-16 win over Cleveland, but the Raiders have not won since unless they pull off a fourth-quarter comeback against the Denver Broncos. So for this Chiefs team, I don't think it's any secret. It's going to have to be about winning this game with your defense. And what I mean by that is not that, you're not trusting the offense here. I feel like the Chiefs offense will be able to move the ball and put up points on the Raiders. But since you didn't use this game against Carolina as your confidence booster, as your get-right game, that's what I would love to see on Friday. It's a short week. Your offense, still trying to heal up a little bit, get some key guys back. This is when the defense can go all out and try to overwhelm Gardner Minshew and that Raiders offensive line. In this meeting in Vegas, it was a 7-point win for Kansas City, but we all know that backdoor cover was kind of making that score a little closer than it was in the final stages of that game. But you got to remember what happened on Christmas Day of last year. Can't have a repeat. We all know that, especially not with the 1 seed on the line right now in Buffalo chasing you down. And that's another thing that we're going to have to keep our eyes on going into next week. The Chiefs will be hosting the Raiders, who will either be 2-9 or 3-8. And you look around the league and some of the teams that are chasing them, who they're going to have on that slate. The Ravens, they will be hosting the Philadelphia Eagles at 3:25 on Sunday. The Bills will be hosting the San Francisco 49ers. Not sure if Brock Purdy will be starting in that game. The Broncos will be hosting the Cleveland Browns. And then you also look at the Steelers, who will be on the road in Cincinnati against the Bengals team that has just been snake-bitten, it feels like. That is a much better 4-7 team than their record indicates. But as it's always said, you are what your record says you are. And for the Chiefs, not about overlooking an opponent here. Try not to play with your food. Try not to play down to competition. As the Panthers were, this is not a good Raiders team, but at least with, the Panthers, they were coming off back-to-back wins, playing more inspired football. They had the young guys out there. They were at home. This is a Raiders team that just feels like it's gone south for them. They are completely lost at this point. I'd assume Antonio Pierce still keeps the head coach job by the end of this year, but what a disastrous season for the Raiders. The only thing that could make the season a little bit sweet is if they were able to make it back-to-back years of knocking off the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. I thought the last time I had checked the spread in this game was double digits, but it was also double digits in this game against the Panthers, and it was needed, or a game-winning field goal by Spencer Schrader was needed to win this game today. An ugly but thrilling game in Charlotte today, a 30-27 win for the Chiefs. They move to 10-1, keep possession of the number 1 seed in the AFC. They only have a few days of rest before welcoming the Las Vegas Raiders to Arrowhead Stadium on Friday. Again, kickoff at 2 p.m., and we'll have the post-game coverage following that game between the Chiefs and the Raiders. It is officially Raider Week. We're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we will wrap it up on the Red and Gold post-game show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. coming from Patrick Mahomes, is our Magic of Mahomes moment, which is brought to you by Westlake Commercial, a division of Westlake Ace Hardware. It's your local business-to-business supply partner. Our commercial team, dedicated business-to-business website, credit terms, and convenience store locations make it easy. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware store or www.westlakehardware.com/commercial today. As I open the show with, as I will close the show with, you never apologize for victories in the NFL. Today, it didn't make you feel good. You didn't want to be sitting on your couch at 3 p.m. having to sweat it out watching the Chiefs and Panthers. But that's unfortunately what we had to deal with today in Kansas City's 30-27 win over the Carolina Panthers. Offense looked good. Defense did not. But at the end of the day, it is a 10-1 record for the Kansas City Chiefs. Up next, the Las Vegas Raiders at home. We're going to talk about that after the game on Friday. You take it easy, Kansas City.